Mouse Sports, we have HeroMarine. His opponent in the bottom right in this game spawning as the Teal Protoss, switching it up a little bit after losing game number 1. Can he stay in this best of 3, or is he going to go down 2-0 to the European player? We'll find out. Representing Axiom Gaming, we have CranK.
So, this is really down to CranK now. If he gets 2-0'd here, it's a psychological hit to him, because, let's face it, he just got knocked out by someone who's 15 years old, someone who's not massively well known, hasn't had the hype around him, doesn't have the pressure of... CranK has got a lot of pressure. People are expecting him to get a podium finish.
That's true, yeah.
That is a lot of weight on your shoulders. So we'll wait to see what he does. I reckon he's going to mix it up quite substantially, because what he did last game couldn't have gone much worse for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think really he needs to sort of step it up a gear here. But at the same time, it's important to note that CranK is a player who we know he can step it up a gear. I mean, CranK, a very, very solid, very, very powerful Korean player. Just all round really, really good. The problem is, though, in that last game, there were a couple of too many chinks in his armor, and he really needed to pick off the medevacs that were doing the drops a lot more. HeroMarine wasn't getting too much damage done with the drops, but at the same time, they were constantly getting away, which meant he didn't have the freedom to move around. I think that's what threw CranK off the most. So, where does CranK go from here? I mean, HeroMarine clearly showing that he's got a good, almost great grasp of the game, I would say. He knows precisely what he needs to be achieving, how to make it work, and that's sort of a problem, because as we were saying early on, previously, the problem is HeroMarine, he's all-round solid. There's no area of the game I personally feel he is incredibly strong at or weak at, and that makes it a tough job for CranK in really countering. Whereas HeroMarine adjusted his build, responded, played very reactionary, and it paid off for him perfectly. Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. It's just the reactions there were fantastic. HeroMarine made the most of the situation he was in. We can see now CranK cancelling the pile at the last second at the natural expansion. Of course, the command center just being made up on the high ground, so no big delay there. And in the meantime, yeah, it looks like we're just going to have a nice long... Ooh, very interesting there. So we have a gas steal coming in the main base from HeroMarine.
This is something you very rarely see nowadays. It used to, about 6 months ago in Wings of Liberty, it was such a meta play that you would see so many gas steals everywhere. And the reason it's so strong isn't that it denies it, it's limiting the options available to CranK. And that's what really helps. If you know that it's not coming down, then you can respond, you can adjust your build to really what is available for CranK to do. Super
fast tech, not as feasible if it takes you that much longer to take that gas. So that's what we're going to be seeing here. No doubt that second gas. And also, if you force your opponent onto one gas for too long, you could see some very, very early one base play out of our Protoss opponent as well. But he's going to be taking that gas. We're not going to see any sort of like all-in off the back of it or anything like that. It was just a gas steal. The Stargate is also going down for CranK in the north side of his base.
Now, this Stargate opens up options. Obviously, Oracles are great against Terran. They work really strong as long as the Marines don't cover it. And that's one of the problems. Phoenix is really good as well. It denies the drops, which arguably could be an adjustment, because the drops were really problematic to CranK early on.
Yeah.
So if he gets some Phoenix out, he can say, guess what, I don't want that happening anymore.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that CranK's going to have in the back of his mind going into this game, that the drops were constantly getting in and out of his base. He was dealing with them really well once they were inside, but not just able to pick them off when they left. So definitely Stargate play is going to help a lot with that, and the first unit we see popping out of there is actually going to be an Oracle. Chrono boosting that out, going to try and get some economic damage done early on now to HeroMarine.
So the thing I'm looking for is what follows up from this Oracle. Is it going to be more? Is it going to be 2, 3, even 4? Is it going to just be straight into Phoenix? Those are the things that are really important. And really, that is what HeroMarine needs to know as well, because he's got to adapt his play. And it's going to be a second Oracle, so really quite a big commitment to this.
Yeah, it looks like he's really out to try and kill a ridiculous number of workers here. CranK, I like this. He rallied the Oracles out directly through the center of the map, so it gets to his opponent's base quicker, but he put a probe on the offensive watchtower first, and that's really important because he didn't want HeroMarine to know that the Oracles are coming any sooner than necessary. So really like that move out of him, and the Marines just spot the Oracle around the edge of their vision. He's going to go in and try and pick him up, but one Oracle is not enough for that. A little bit of miss micro from CranK, and oh dear, loses Oracle number 1. That is not what he wanted to do there. Basically for a Marine, not good.
Yeah, he got a grand total of 2 Marines for 1 Oracle, which is not a good trade. Nope. Is the nicest way to put it. And I'm surprised he went for that, because it was clear how many Marines were there.
Yeah, if he was going like with 2 at once and he microed it really well, I'd say maybe, but I'd still rather sort of get both of them back in the mineral line and just try and do as much damage as possible. We have a turret going up in the mineral line now. Of course, since we saw MC basically with Oracle so effectively at MLG, Widow Mines themselves aren't necessary. Oh, needs to be careful, don't lose a second Oracle as well. Okay, he gets in. Widow Mines themselves aren't necessarily the best defense inside the mineral line now, as a Reaper going to be popping into CranK's base, but Mothership Core and Stalker will scare it off, because going in with those Phoenixes using Envision means that they can pick up the mines before they can actually shoot, so that's a really good play there that Protosses can use against Terrans.
So, as we're seeing, yet again, we've got the double forge is going to be coming down later, though, than we saw in the first game, so I think that's fine. This sort of timing, it's not too much of a commitment, but those Oracles killed 4 workers. That was it. That is not enough economical damage to warrant 2 Oracles, in my opinion.
No, definitely not. The second one now at the front of the main base of HeroMarine, and it was actually seen briefly, and the Reaper's going to see it as well, so he knows that CranK still has an Oracle out on the field, but HeroMarine's going to be feeling pretty confident at this point. I mean, at the end of the day, he saw that his opponent went for those Oracles, and it just didn't work out for him. 4 workers killed is not what he wants, and now he's going to be adding on a lot more gateways by the looks of things. We have 6 in the main base.
Yep, this is going to be straight away a bit of a problem. However, even though there hasn't been that many workers killed, CranK is still slightly ahead in the worker count.
Yeah.
So that's not a big issue. We do have the Templar archives yet again, so clearly CranK favours High Templar in this matchup for the time being, and it's okay, it's fine, but I really hope he goes for some kind of tech transition at some point this game. Now,
2-2 once again is being chrono boosted out. We saw that in game number 1, it was very difficult for CranK to leave his base because of the harassment from HeroMarine, and as a result, the 2-2 timing wasn't going to materialize. In this game, we have a different situation. We don't see non-stop harassment from HeroMarine, even though we have got a double dropship coming into the natural now, but it hasn't been constant so far. But CranK's early game aggression, he spent a lot on it and it's not able to make it pay off, and here we go, the 2 dropships popping down, Photon Overcharge immediately getting put down, 0 damage done. Will CranK feel confident enough to move out for a 2-2 timing here?
See, that Photon Overcharge, I think CranK, those drops in game 1, really shook him up a bit, because that was such a big reaction to seeing that double drop going in. He had all of his units there, he was ready to deal with it, he didn't need it. He's just wasted medevac energy. That means that he doesn't have another Photon Overcharge for a good couple of seconds, which means that it's awkward. He also isn't going to have the energy for a Time Warp and a Mass Recall if he decides to move out. This all causes problems, and this is the thing. If you get a game which you think you're going to win, which I imagine CranK would have done, and then you lose the first one quite easily, and you can get into a bit of an awkward spot.
It's also worth noting, by the way, that ground weapons level 2 was cancelled by CranK. So possibly part of, oh, I need some minerals now because an attack might be coming in when the drop popped in. He just quickly cancelled that. And as a result, +2 armor is going to finish. But please note, it's only +1 attack. +2 attack is not coming in at the moment.
So, let's recap what we've seen so far, Jorosan. We had CranK trying to be relatively aggressive with those Oracles. It didn't do much at all, though. As such, that means that HeroMarine, he's been able to go about what he wants, he's been able to get out the units he wants, get the upgrades he wants. CranK transitioned, he did manage to get a slight way ahead in terms of the worker count, but that is now going completely the other way. 57 SCVs to 48 probes, plus mules. That means HeroMarine's economically in a great position. He's also got good upgrades, he's got the Ghost Academy down, he's going to start getting the first Ghost shortly, ready to deal with those High Templar. And CranK, he's really got to do something, but look at this push, this is a lot of units. This third could be denied.
I think so. I mean, the spread from HeroMarine's really good as well, and protecting against potential storms, that's exactly what he's doing, picking the best opportunity for those storms, and actually CranK getting a decent amount of purchase. The Zealots aren't dying quite as quickly as HeroMarine would like, and I think CranK's going to be able to force this army to go away. So the third is going to complete. HeroMarine split his units well against storms, but once they were split, it meant that the Zealots could zoom everywhere as well, and HeroMarine wasn't able, with that spread out army, to individually target fire them to kill them off fast enough, and as a result, the Zealots soaked up enough damage for CranK to push that away.
Yeah, this was all really, really nicely going at the moment. So CranK, I'd say this game is pretty evenly matched at the moment. My only concern is purely the fact that HeroMarine does have the SCV lead over the worker count, and that is big for Terran because you've got mules as well. You can usually afford to be a little way behind on 3 bases, give or take about 15 workers behind and still be equal on income. So due to this, what do you do in CranK's position? You need to be thinking, okay, I've got a couple of high tech blowout. I've held off all of the aggression so far. I haven't done that much either, though. It's starting to get into later points of the game, and what I'm loving is this double robotics facility. That is exactly what he was missing in Game 1, in my opinion, was the tech switch. He's now got that there, and currently, with only the single starport out, it means that HeroMarine can't easily switch into a lot of Vikings.
This is very, very interesting indeed. I mean, we've seen some games today, especially, I think, against Hasuobs, I want to say, Sting Hasuobs, where we had Colossi first and then tech switching into High Templar. We have potentially the other way around going here with CranK. He's started off with those Templar, and he's decided actually now that double robotics facility is definitely the way to go. We have the robotics bay now.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, Josh, but we've got a Hellbat drop coming into the natural, and there is nothing to defend at the moment.
Oh, and this could be absolutely huge. The probes are not being pulled as they currently stand. Oh no, he wasn't microing it. They were busy attacking the cannons, and as a result, does minimum damage. Only 6 workers killed this entire game.
I'd say that was lucky for CranK. That could have done a lot.
It really could have, but at the same time, if HeroMarine was microing and making sure that they weren't attacking the cannons, he could have killed a couple more workers there. So a little bit unfortunate.
It was a little bit unfortunate, so we'll wait to see what happens, but the supply exactly equal for the time being. CranK now taking the probe lead, which is really, really nice. And, well, coming out now, double Colossi.
Yes, except one Colossus, because the other one was unfortunately chrono boosted into a supply block. CranK going to be getting those 4 pylons at once. Straight down there, and we have a lot. Oh, very nice. We had some envisions, of course, on those Marauders in the army as well, which means that CranK knows that HeroMarine is currently pushing out across the map. He wants to try and stall for time. And imagine if he didn't go into that supply block, he would potentially go into the engagement with 1 extra Colossus. That could make a huge difference here.
It could, but of course he was kind of boosting his way 50% faster into that supply block, which is not too efficient. But of course, CranK, I think HeroMarine, with what he's seen, isn't feeling comfortable to move in yet. I think he's scratching his head feeling, hang on, I've got a good number of Hellbats, I've got a good number of Marauders.
Yeah.
Why am I being so cautious? Because he doesn't quite know what's behind this. What could be sitting, waiting, counterattacks are always a possibility. Also, a lot of missile charges being chucked down here as well by HeroMarine in his base. So.
Oh, this is so good. The Colossi still haven't been revealed. He's pulling them at his natural. He's waiting for HeroMarine to get very, very close indeed. He's trying to bait him in. Nice storm there, but High Templar getting taken out very early indeed. And another scan from HeroMarine going, look, what have you got in your army? Why are you holding back? And now he moves forward with those 2 Colossi. By the way, Viking count, 0.
That is a lot less than what he needs to deal with these. Extended Thermal Lance is not done, though, so that means the Marauders could potentially try and get a snipe off. There are only 2 Colossi, not 4, but it's going to be tough. And as we can see now, a couple of Marauders just leading the way, just trying to get a little read on what CranK has got, because I'm not sure, I don't think Colossi have been seen yet.
Extended Thermal Lance hasn't even started, Metal, so I wonder if that's intentional from CranK. I suspect he would have wanted to start that quite a while ago, because he's on 1,000 minerals, 700 gas. I think he just forgot it. There's the scan. He sees 3 Colossi in the back of this, but he's moving in anyway. He feels confident. 4 force fields go down, and CranK is actually forced to move back here. 190 supply versus 200, so we have got both players pretty much maxed out, and still 2 Colossi being made at a time with no Thermal Lance. This could hurt CranK so much.
Ultimately, there are 14 Marauders out on the field. They are going to be able to deal a lot of DPS when they're not outranged, and therefore these Colossi got to be ever so careful. Photon Overcharge being used, and if this third goes down, CranK is in real issues.
I think he is, and here we go. He's going to be moving
and he sees the 4th. He knows the 4th there as well, and so he can just arc up, and I think
a counterattack into the natural and the 3rd as well. We have Zealots moving in, but unfortunately they're cleaned up at the 3rd by some Hellbats, Marauders, and Ghosts. And it looks like the natural expansion is not going to get too much damage done to it as well. HeroMarine trying to take out the 4th. CranK pursuing with those Colossi. The Dark Templar could be out on the field soon. Excellent EMPs from some of the Ghosts there, and it looks like HeroMarine's going to turn around and try and take this right here. So many of the Colossi exposed. 1 goes down, 2 more are without shield, just holding on.
Yeah, he's got to pull back, though, because the Zealots are still going to town in the natural mineral line, getting a good number of SCV kills. This is what CranK needs. He needed to force this back. The units are there. They will finally get cleaned up. But CranK, the reason this isn't really a tough spot for him is because he's got the 4th up. That is his lifeline. If that had gone down, I would be saying something completely different right now in the terms of this game. But with that, he's still got 3 mining bases, still matching that of his opponent. It's going to be tough.
It really is, and he still hasn't noticed no Thermal Lance on those Colossi. He's doing quite well on his upgrades. He's got 3-3, which is just completed as well. He's adding more gateways in the main base too. So strictly composition-wise, he's doing all right. He's got some Archons in there. I think he still has some Storms available as well. And with those Colossi, this is looking pretty solid. The problem is he needs a way to effectively deal with those ghosts. He needs a couple more feedbacks, a couple more solid storms before the Colossi move into that engagement.
Yeah, so here we go. A scan goes off. 2 scans seeing exactly what CranK's got there. This is HeroMarine just really baiting to see, can I do this? Can I actually move in? Can I take him out now?
And it might be possible. He's going to move out across the map now. Let's see if he is able to. We have a couple of Vikings out on the field, only 4 at the moment. He actually has fewer Vikings right now than CranK has Colossi, but CranK's army is really out of position right now, and he doesn't actually see that HeroMarine is moving up here towards the watchtower behind his 4th base. Now he's going to see it, and we have the probes being attacked from the high ground there. Really nice position for those units from HeroMarine. Photon Overcharge going down immediately. Now let's see what CranK can do.
Well, things are starting to look a little bit tough for CranK, because there the Mothership Core goes down. That's a big loss. It's an expensive unit, and it's something that is just going to take time. +1 ship weapons also coming out for HeroMarine now. In direct response to seeing a lot of Colossi. A Storm missing everything, but the next one getting a couple of units. The Archon's poking forward. Extended Thermal Lance. I know we've harped on about this, but it's still not down. That is just nothing but a mistake for CranK.
Yeah, he still hasn't noticed, unfortunately, and when he watches the replay, he's going to kick himself. Good EMPs on the Colossi, and HeroMarine now stimming forward. He does not see the Photon Overcharge there, and he's trying to force this engagement. Another Storm goes down from CranK. CranK is playing this very, very patiently, as we said, and there's Extended Thermal Lance. That's why CranK is moving back right now. Finally, he's realized he needs to get that upgrade, but it's still 2 minutes away from completion, and he's going to have to take this engagement.
And as we see, the Colossi at the back are starting to fall. The Vikings are trying to get focused, but they all go down, and now suddenly it's stimmed infantry up against a couple of Archons and Stalkers, and while now the medevacs pick up, they're going to go straight into that main.
The storms were so good from CranK. Yep. He saved his own life with them. If those storms weren't actually like that, Maddles, then the Colossi might have won him that battle. Without Extended Thermal Lance, he needed those storms to be perfect, and they were. What an excellent engagement there for CranK, given what he had.
Meanwhile, DTs are coming for a counterattack, but with detection there, they are going to do nothing at the 3rd base. 2 luckily managed to get away, but HeroMarine, he's still on only 3 bases. CranK has been on 4 for quite a while. He has lost a lot of workers, but he's still ahead, 65 to 47.
That engagement really was the defining point of this game. HeroMarine had all the units he needed to absolutely crush CranK in that engagement. But CranK, even without Extended Thermal Lance, even with the Colossi falling so quickly, so early in that engagement, came out with the money storms. The supplies are even right now. HeroMarine with a slight lead, but CranK is still making Colossi 2 at a time now. He's going to be able to go up to 4, and he does have that range done now.
So, with Extended Thermal Lance, this means that no longer are Marauders an absolutely terrifying sight. CranK, if he has a good position, he should be okay. The Viking count isn't that high. 4 up against 2 Colossi, but 2 more just popping out of production as I speak. So, this is now equal Viking count to Corruptor count, Colossi count, and that just means that ultimately, CranK should be okay, and HeroMarine has got to be ever so careful moving forward here.
Oh, and here we go. I think we're going to have to see an engagement here. CranK trying to move up the ramp, but not quite able to get quite that good a position. HeroMarine with a decent concave, but the Colossi now with that extra range are just doing so much. HeroMarine dropping below CranK in supply right now. And 3 Colossi are still alive here. It's true that we have some SCVs here with HeroMarine. The problem is the Colossi are doing way too much damage. They get picked up independently of the army, and now CranK can just move towards his 4th base to defend this. I don't think the Nexus should go down.
A couple of High Templar and DTs were taken out there, but the Colossi are going to avenge their death very early on. The 4th base is taking a little bit of damage, but not enough. HeroMarine knows he can't do anything now. GG. Well